I love Pokemon. The games, the anime, the cards, and the cultural phenomenon that happened because of it. To this day, Pokemon is one of the highest grossing franchises of all time, with multiple sources stating that it's nearly impossible to quantify how much the brand is actually worth. However, some areas state that just the brand name alone is worth somewhere around 15 billion US dollars. The game coined Pocket Monsters in Japan was the start of a snowball that wouldn't stop rolling for the next 2.5 decades. It was a massive part of the creation of the Pokemon culture. This is the evolution of those core games. Dubbed Red and Blue on the international market, these games set the bar for what a hit video game was, selling 31 million copies and revolutionizing what the handheld Nintendo was capable of. The first Pokemon games are also credited for mainstreaming RPG games in Western countries, as well as being the base for a future multi-billion-dollar industry. We all know the story. You're a boy in Kanto, Professor Oak lets you choose your first Pokemon, and just like that, you are a 10-year-old boy off to fight grown-ups with the monsters you keep in your pocket. You fight the malevolent Team Rocket, saving multiple towns, and you play a song on a flute for a big cat bear. At the end of it all, defeating the Pokemon League and your dick-headed rival to become the undisputed champion.
God, he's such a dick!
There were aspects to Red and Blue that no one had ever seen before. It would make these games' success untouchable to already successful franchises like Final Fantasy. After you defeat the League and become the champion, the credits roll. You cry a little bit because the adventure with your odd little friends is over. But then you find out that there is one thing left to do. This was a new aspect to a game that was new and exciting to the gamer base. You make your way over to Cerulean Cave and discover a Pokemon that you have never seen or heard of. It is an exhilarating battle, and one of my most memorable experiences in my life. More than the time I lost my And if you thought you were done there, you were dead wrong. Game Freak and Nintendo created a device allowing you to take your team and beat the ever-loving piss out of your friends' garbage teams. This one feature itself started a massive movement of kids battling each other. You have now brought your Pokemon to life, battling with everything you have to be the best of the best in your real playground war zone. This breathed an actual life essence into the game that was groundbreaking and one of the most influential points of video game history. To this day, there are still things being discovered about this game, such as data not used or removed from the game, many Pokemon that still exist in the code but never made it to final release. This removal of Pokemon caused a glitch in the Matrix, and Mazingo was created out of this, and thus the multiplier bug that you could use to max out any item in your inventory was born, including the famous Master Ball and the tasty rare candy. This is one of those games that will never be forgotten, and will forever be cherished worldwide. I know. This isn't a new generation, but there are some things we need to cover here quickly. While this was a reskin of the original Red and Blue, there were aspects that shaped a lot of future Pokemon games that started right here. Right off the start, things are different. You do not get your usual starter choices. Instead, you are granted a Pikachu. They did this as a nod to the anime. However, one important aspect to this game was that it was the first to introduce not only your Pokemon following behind you, but your ability to see if your little yellow plump mouse was happy with you or not. This introduced a friendship aspect to Pokemon that would be a massive staple in later games. Another tradition that this game started in multiple games was the ability to acquire all three original starters, being Squirtle, Bulbasaur, and the other one. Other than this, the games are relatively the same, other than Jesse and James from the anime becoming NPCs in the game for you to beat the snot out of. If Red and Blue were responsible for being the base for a successful franchise, then Gold and Silver are the steel beams that no jet fuel could ever burn through, and what every future Pokemon game would be built around. This is my favorite addition to the series ever, bar none, and for very good reason. There were mechanics added into this game that would become the formula for every single future core Pokemon game. Soon after your journey starts, you notice two things: that your rival is again a huge wiener, and that the game has built-in day and night. This will affect many aspects of the game, such as what Pokemon appear, and there's also a new secret evolution of our favorite multi-evolving Pokemon Eevee, that evolves into a Dark-type Pokemon. This was the first game that introduced the theme of adding new typings to Pokemon games, and it was exciting. Fun fact, the reason why Dark typing was added was because in Generation 1, Psychic types were a cancer to play against, and the only cure for that cancer was a Bug type. But who the hell wanted to battle an Alakazam with old Dick B over here? The addition of the Dark type being super effective against it was a much needed improvement. They also added in Ghost as being super effective against Psychic types, instead of it being unaffected by it. The Steel type was also added, but they were pretty underwhelming in this generation. There's a big misconception that dual typing first appeared in these games. However, this was not the case. The code in Blue and Red was very buggy at times. The dual typings were there, but just never showed. The only way you would notice this is hitting a Pokemon and getting a super effective message for no reason whatsoever. This is why there is a big divide among the Pokemon fans as to when dual typing started. Gold and Silver were only the first games to show the dual typing. Significant item changes happened that would carry on to most future games. Pokemon could now hold items. You could have berries that would heal status effects just in case old Dick B over here again decided you needed a good poison stabbing. As well as items that would boost the attacks of certain Pokemon types. New styles of Pokeballs were also introduced to make a more interactive catching game. My only gripe is, who the heck decided we were making Pokeballs from acorns? That is dumb. Shiny Pokemon made their first appearances in Gold and Silver. The very slim chance to get a Pokemon that was a slightly different shade or color than the originals. This idea would carry forward to every single future core game, and spark shiny hunts that is hugely popular today in streams, YouTube videos, and just your own personal satisfaction of showing off the different colored creature that you spent days hunting for. You know what? It sounds kind of stupid when I say it out loud, but still, it was pretty cool. Before we get to the biggest change and the mind-blowing ending of this game, here are some honorable mentions. The Move Deleter was created to give the player the ability to force their Pokemon to forget moves. The Pokegear was created giving the player the ability to check the time, see the map, listen to the radio, and phone that dumb-as-a-stick trainer Joey to ask for a rematch, so you can stomp his top percentage Rattata into the ground again. This was also the first time that they introduced genders to Pokemon, which we will cover the significance of this shortly. Now time for the biggest change, and this is a doozy. In this game, breeding was introduced, where almost any Pokemon barring legendaries can be bred by leaving two compatible Pokemon at the Pokemon daycare. So grab your most promiscuous Pokemon and let them do what's natural in the jungle, baby. This opened the door to the competitive scene. You can now breed Pokemon to have higher IVs, which were the inherent stats to a Pokemon. Having higher IVs meant your Pokemon were faster, tankier, and can hit like a redneck at a dive bar. When you get to the end of your journey, it's the same formula. You beat the Elite Four, and your rival, still a dick, to become the champion. But then your mind starts racing because at the end of the last game, you discovered the true endgame boss being Mewtwo in Cerulean Cave. So what mythical beast is now waiting for you? But to your surprise, it's not that. I'm going to take a moment here to put the humor aside and pay tribute to one of the greatest men in gaming programmers to ever live. And that is Satoru Iwata. And I probably butchered his name, please don't crucify me for that. He gave us all a gift at the end of this game. He toiled away for endless hours and days to compress the code in the base game to give us the ability to travel with our new Pokemon back to the Kanto region to play through the entire other game. I remember when I first got back to Kanto and this blew my little brain straight out of my skull. I could not believe that 5 minutes ago I thought the game was over, but now I have a complete other journey to go through. So after I picked my jaw up off the floor, I moved on to my other journey. To this day, I have never felt more accomplished in a Pokemon game. So thank you, Mr. Iwata. It is for these reasons and many others that time constraints limit me on, that this, in my opinion, is the holy grail of Pokemon games. All the new and inventive concepts that were the pillars of all future games, and the gift that Mr. Iwata gave us. I hope that one day we can have another Pokemon game that was as revolutionary as this one was. Well, that's the end of part 1. This is a new type of video for me, so if you did enjoy this, please let me know by either liking or commenting on the video, so I know whether to continue this or not. A subscribe is also much appreciated. See you next time, and don't forget, hide your kids from Dick B.